is going on, everybody? Happy holidays. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly right here on the Takedown on SI on YouTube. I am Zach Haydorn. That over there, that's Blake Lovell. Blake, man, it's holiday season. We're in the era of taped wrestling shows. What a year, man.
What a year it's been, Zach. Yeah, like you said, it's sort of as usual. It's kind of the finish to the year. You get some of these tape shows, and they're tape shows, and some of them will have a little bit more pizzazz than others, and it's usually not that busy of a season. I know we still have World's End to get to after Christmas and all that, so at least we have that to look forward to coming up. But yeah, it's sort of more of a quiet time, and things, as we know, pick up very quickly starting in the new year. So fun to reflect on what was a very interesting 2025, I would say.
Yeah, it certainly was. It certainly was. And God, yeah, I mean, look, before you know it, it's going to be, Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. That's how fast like the new year hits, I feel like. And, like you said, I mean, we got World's End coming up. We've got you know, a really big episode of Raw that's going to kick off the new year. So, I mean, it's a slow week this week, but after that, I mean, it's off to the races, and here we go.
Yeah, I mean that's it, and it's award season, as we know. I believe there was some talk about the Takedown on SI Awards this week. I could be wrong. I believe there was some mention of that on the internet.
Well, I got to sign my check from Tony Khan really quick before I cash it. Yeah,
we currently have one person watching the show. It's TK. Well, it is like I don't know, man, and I think it's just, again, like the older you get, you're just like, I don't think these are as just I think they're pretty clear in terms of like how the actual process works, and
Super.
it is as clear as it gets when it comes to like, it's a panel vote. There are a lot of people who vote on these, and there were awards that probably came out in our composite vote that I did not have as mine, but like, it's a composite vote. And sometimes if there's enough people that get a certain, whatever, enough points, it's going to go to the top. And you can have disagreements with it, but again, they're all subjective votes, right? And so, yeah, it is going to be kind of fun again for us to individually look back on some of our favorite, matches, moments, all that. But man, you want to talk about just the response to one set of awards. Just incredible to me.
I mean, it is something else, I mean, got to credit the internet for that marketing campaign. So thank you, world.
Yes,
But
thank you.
but yeah, like I look forward to that awards column. You can check it out now. It's up at the Takedown on SI, is our full 2025 year in review awards, and it's fun to have to sit back. We're going to do a little of that right here, but it's fun to sit back and have to really think about the last year. And when you do, or at least when I do, it's like, holy cow, all these things. Like when we were talking about the Naomi heel turn, I was like, that happened in 2025.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
that was only like 5 months ago. Like, it wasn't even that long ago. But the wrestling world moves fast, these days, with two companies and so much content. So I find it to be a blast. And, even though it's a vocal minority that likes to get out there and kind of spew some intellectually dishonest thoughts on these, for the most part, I think people recognize them for what they are, and it's just a fun column, and people vote, and that's it. And there's no exchange of anything. So,
I mean, I like it more just for the debate of, oh yeah, like I forgot about that, or I forgot about that, because like, has there ever been a time where we've mentioned this before, like where we've been this exposed to this much professional wrestling at any moment? Like, I don't think there's ever been a time, and that's where, again, access and all that stuff, like you've just got You've got everything available at your fingertips. You can find whatever you want, and I just think, yeah, like that's kind of where we are right now, and so it's easy to forget a lot of things. And as I'm going through, like looking at some of the lists, I'm like, oh yeah, forgot about that, forgot about that. I've got to tweak my list because I forgot about that, and it's just like that's the process.
That's the process. That's what it is. It's above board. You can go read about it now, and we're going to talk about it, all about it right here on this week's episode of Pro Wrestling Weekly. You're on the Takedown on SI on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. We're live with this show once a week. Usually it's on Thursdays, but because of the Christmas holiday, we're bumping it up. Next week, we're going to bump it up too because of the new year and just all the stuff that goes with that. So a couple scheduling kind of tweaks here in the next couple weeks, but we will have a show for you. And so we will be here live, and we're glad you're here. I do have the live chat open. If you want to get in and talk about your favorite parts of 2025, what's your favorite wrestler, your favorite match, your favorite promotion, your favorite moment, just get on in there and mix it up. We'll try to get to as much as we can. If you are able to throw some change in the tip jar with a super chat, we'd appreciate that as well. That'd be awesome. Thank you in advance. And more than anything, if you could just hit the little thumbs up button on this. It helps us out big time. Helps us reach some new eyes and some new wrestling fans. And that's always great. So thank you in advance for that. And I guess if you're not subscribed to the channel and you're watching this right now, what you waiting for? We got all sorts of stuff that drops throughout the week. We'll have a World's End preview drop here in the next few days. We'll have, we have got some exciting new CMLL interviews that are going to be hitting the channel. That's pretty cool. I don't have an exact time on that, but that will be on the channel soon. And the only way you'll know that it is if you subscribe. So hit subscribe so you're up to speed on all that. So let's get into it. Blake, first and foremost, I kind of had like I wanted just to kind of kick around like general 2025 thoughts, because I feel like post Vince McMahon and like the lead up to, I don't know, WrestleMania 40, like a little bit after WrestleMania 40, the creation of TKO, you had a really hot industry in general from a creative perspective. And I think that was led at that time by WWE, because you had Cody, you had Roman, you had the Bloodline, CM Punk is back in the fold, Seth Rollins is doing his thing. You just kind of were clicking on all cylinders. The Rock was back. But really, I think there was an element at that time of riding the wave of not being Vince McMahon and it not being a Vince McMahon show. And 2025 to me in WWE was kind of like, okay, the buzz has worn off. The buzz of not being Vince is gone, right? Like it was more of a year that had to stand on its own. There wasn't any Bloodline stuff happening. There wasn't any, Roman Reigns was barely even around. Brock was barely around at the end. You had this weird thing with The Rock and John Cena and Cody. So I just feel like it was like the first time since Vince that the creative stood alone away from Vince. Is that kind of unfair to kind of treat the year that way? And I think it had mixed results because of that.
Yeah, and I think it's like, to me, like if you're just like trying to just use like a theme for the year for WWE, I think it was a company that leaned more into its financial success than it ever has before publicly.
Yeah.
And did it in a way that I think has sort of evolved since the TKO era began, to where initially it's like, all right, this is going to be different. They didn't mind bragging about how they were going to be better and do this and that. This year, I think they leaned so far into that, of never hesitating to tell you how much smarter and richer they were than you.
Hey, you guys spent all this money on tickets. Yeah.
I think, I truly think that there's, probably a lot of we're just so much smarter than everyone else, and we don't mind letting you know that nothing we do is ever, wrong, or nothing we do is ever a failure in any way, shape, or form. But I think in doing that, you probably did rub a certain portion of the fan base the wrong way. I think the facts just tell you that some of their attendance figures in places they had been previously were down. Did they still make a ton of money? Of course they did, because they still had the John Cena retirement tour to lean on, which, in my opinion, could be graded no better than an average C. And now, I think creatively, it put kind of the company in a situation where I'll give them credit. They took some chances. Jey Uso was a chance. They took a shot at Jey Uso and said, we're gonna run with this and see how it goes. They took a chance with a Cena heel turn. It didn't go well. It didn't go well. The Jey run overall didn't go well, probably from a satisfaction standpoint for many people. But it's hard to deny that Jey did not make them a lot of money this year in terms of the merch and the fan engagement and all that stuff.
Right.
So to them, it's a success. So it's like, I think that was the thing for me, Zach. Like, it's creatively, they're left a lot to be desired this year. You compared last year and this year, I just think it was completely different in terms of like their creative execution. But they also had what felt like a more demanding schedule this year. They also had, I think, from a important standpoint, how many important events did they do this year? The Raw Netflix debut, WrestlePalooza, Cena's final match. Like, you just keep going down the line. Like, there just felt like there was so much importance. Like, even Evolution, I think, was an important show. So it was a weird year for WWE. Because I think that, again, you're seeing the direction I think they're heading in from just a public perception standpoint of themselves and how they're pushing themselves publicly. And again, you're seeing some of those attendance numbers go down a bit, but they're still making money. They've got deals for WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. They're making all the, like, they're never going to stop making money. And as long as that's the case, Zach, this is the way it's going to be. And the creative may dip at times, but there are still people paying a record amount of tickets and paying more and more and more the way they are. Who am I to sit back and say it's not a recipe for success? So,
well, I think both things can be true at the same time. You can have a product that's on fire that people are paying to see, and that just isn't clicking on all cylinders. I mean, both those things can be true. I think Triple H this year showed some holes in his booking strategy, and it's hard to like really give a grade on it because of the John Cena retirement tour thing. Like, that was a thing that was just kind of like dropped in the middle of the year, or like at the start of the year, like, hey, we're going to do this. And so that automatically, takes precedent, takes priority over some other things. And I would argue ineffectively, but when you decide, hey, we're going to go all in on this John Cena tour, you got to put the emphasis there. I still think we've yet to see Triple H really like show his chops as a creative booker. Like when you think back to WrestleMania 40 and you think back to the Bloodline, like that was all stuff set up like pre Triple H. That was Vince with the Bloodline. That was Vince that brought back Cody Rhodes. And obviously Triple H was there and he helped facilitate this. I'm not saying he had no impact, but I'm looking forward to the day where we actually just see a straight up storyline at the top of the card that came from his head, like from his head and his head alone. Maybe we get that in 2026, but I think 2025 was about kind of just resting back on the success that they've had thus far. Derek here in the chat says, to me, WWE in 2025 was too much about looking back and highlighting nostalgia. A lot of this was Cena-centric. 2026 needs to get back to telling stories that pave toward the future. Thank you, Derek. Blake, your comments?
I mean, I agree with that. And I think to their credit, I think you can tell they are setting some of that stuff up, whether it's with Breaker, whether that's with the NXT call ups they're about to make. You can see the wheels are in motion to where I think they're putting the foundation in place for them to do that. Starting, I mean, literally as soon as the start of 2026. It's almost like this is how they drew it up, right? It's like, get Cena out of the way, and now we're going to get back to the show, right? Like now we're going to get back to doing things what we want to do because Breaker's getting the title shot on the first Raw. And so I think you can sort of see that the way they're doing it. Now, you're still going to have the Lesnar stuff. Brock's going to be a big part of this picture moving forward. You're still going to have Roman as a big part of this story. But we brought it up before, like, again, the ages of the top guys right now, and it's a different era where it's like, I still laugh, Zach. I go back and yesterday, it feels like every day you see something on Twitter where it's like, did you know that this guy was this old in this, whatever year it was? I'm like, oh yeah, Hulk Hogan was 33 or whatever. And like, what, it's just wild. But like now you're thinking, okay, well, it's nothing that some of these guys are 40 plus or whatever. They're wrestling another 15 years maybe. And so it's like, I do think they are leaning more into the future based on how they're building it. But at the same time, like this is a chance for them to kind of have at least a vision, maybe again, pun intended, for 2026 that does include more of the 2024 vibes, which again, they still leaned in on nostalgia with The Rock and all that at times too, but not to the extent of what you had to do with Cena. And, I was trying to think as you were talking, Zach, about like, if I had to highlight what was Triple H's biggest success this year and biggest weakness, like, I think the weakness would be the retirement tour, which I just think it was not good. I think SmackDown was one of the worst years of WWE television for a single brand I can remember. And that, and I know how bad it was during the later years of the Vince era, but SmackDown to me this year was just a completely skippable show for the most part. And now it's going to go back to 3 hours.
And that's saying something, given the fact that, your biggest star is on that show. I mean, Cody Rhodes is on that show. I mean, you can't, I know it's not Netflix, but boy, I think if you're looking at SmackDown as a whole and you're going, that was a weak show all year, that's not good if when your top star is anchoring it.
Would you say the biggest success, women's division? I think women's division would be my pick. I mean, outside of just the obvious drawing money, right? Like, of course they drew money. Like, that's going to be the biggest success on their bottom line. But I think the women's division this year, to me, is probably the highlight. So
I definitely think the biggest kind of slip up of the year was the Cena retirement tour. I also, in a weird way, I think like one of the best decisions of the year was also pivoting out of the mess that was the Cena heel turn. Like, I think in the end, like, can you imagine had they not done that? Can you imagine if like you had like 5 months more of Cena like just faking this heel bad guy nonsense? Like that would have been so bad. So it's a kind of a check mark in the that was good column because it was so bad before. If you take that out, I mean, look, the women's division in WWE is kind of an embarrassment of riches when you think about it. Like, you had Stephanie Vaquer come up this year. You had Julia come up this year. Jordan Grace made her debut. Roxanne Perez got up to the main roster. Becky Lynch has kind of found another kind of level to her work as a heel. I mean, I think it's really hard to argue that. And you got a whole lot of people, Tiffany Stratton, Jade Cargill, right? I mean, like, I think it's hard to argue. Also, I would also enter into evidence to potentially CM Punk in 2025, like kind of finding his footing finally. Like, I think he's done some really good work this year, kind of just being like a top guy babyface, like a CM Punk that fits in 2025. I think for a while it's like when he comes back, you expect the guy to be CM Punk of, whatever, 2011 or 10, 15 years ago. And it's like, he can't really be that guy anymore because he's not that guy anymore. He's a high paid, highly respected, top WWE guy, and I think he started to find a groove. So I may argue that point too, but I think if I were putting my money somewhere, it'd be women's division.
I mean, you could say too one of Triple H's biggest successes as a as the head creative guy has been CM Punk
Yeah,
overall.
yeah,
I mean, ever since he came back, think about the ways you could have botched that. Just
yep.
given the personal history between the two and all
Yeah,
that from the
or
past, like
sabotaged it, you know?
yeah, like you could have had something like that again, but I don't really think they've had any missteps at all on CM Punk. I mean, he has just kind of always been kept in a position
Yeah,
where, I mean, again, like, man, again, you think about the contrast CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre last year versus whatever this is that is still going on with Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. Like, think
yeah,
about just how different it is, man. And I just think that, to me, is another clear point here of just the drastic difference.
yeah,
Even I can applaud the women's division, but at the same time, I can also look at someone like Julie and be like, what happened?
yeah,
Like, and it's just, I think there's been a lot more of that. There's been a lot more of those kind of, I feel like, missed opportunities or just moments where you're just like, man, how? Like, how did they get there on some of this? And I think, again, maybe SmackDown as a whole for me, outside of some of the, Dragonov's, the United States Open Challenge period with Zayn, I think it's been a positive, but yeah, I mean, it just felt like, I don't know. And so I think overall, like, Raw was pretty entertaining this year. You had always a lot of, I think, top storylines and all that, but I just feel like
yeah.
SmackDown just was lacking as a whole. But
What do you? What about AEW? Like,
mhm.
I AEW to me, and they got my vote for the promotion of the year in our awards. Um, just because to me, I think actually hold on, I want to just go back here and check our both of our votes here. Okay,
I
so
know
no,
I don't remember.
I had WWE ahead of AEW, and AEW number two. And the reason I did that was probably more because I was factoring in, the business of everything. Like,
Me too.
well,
Yep.
okay, you when you draw that much money and all that, like you're a pretty hot promotion. At the same time, I didn't disagree with AEW kind of clocking in at number one, because when I look at their 2025, to me, it was a year to kind of right itself. Like
Hmm.
when coming out of 2024 and 2023 with all the Punk stuff, and then you had like MJF and Adam Cole, and you just kind of had all of that going on, and it was the Devil storyline in 2024, and it just was so messy. And I think in 2025 they got back to some nuts and bolts of like, let's build like a really strong foundation for the company. Let's get this championship on around the waist of like a dominant heel. Let's have him just run the show and run through everybody, and then we're going to build up the super baby faces, and we're going to have those baby faces go against this big bad heel faction. And that's how you got Death Riders versus everybody. That's how you got Death Riders against Hangman Page and the Page Redemption storyline. Like, I think none of that was groundbreaking in terms of like, wow, that is some like high level premier booking. But sometimes you just need straightforward booking. And I think that's what is the biggest compliment I could give AEW this year. I think they flushed out their roster. I think they have a hierarchy now of like, who are the top guys, who's the middle tier, who's, like the lower level. And everything pointed up at that world championship. And so I think that year, or this year that they had, was really impactful for them for that reason. Even if you may look at it and go, oh, the Death Rider thing was kind of boring at times. And it was, there's no doubt about it. But I thought that was a necessary 2 steps back to eventually take, a step forward.
You said exactly where I was going to go, and that was like, to me, it's like one of those things, like, just as the nerd in me, I guess, like with love. Like, I wish I could just see Tony Khan's like the page of when he decided to reshuffle the roster to say, you know what, we're going to get everybody back to where they need to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was kind of the theme of 2025 was here are our guys here. Here are the people we're going to slot here. And then we're going to just make sure we get everybody back. Because it felt like, as you said, like to end the previous year, it just felt like, again, maybe things were a little bit more all over the place. And he's mentioned in interviews maybe why that was in terms of, input and all that coming from outside. He decided, hey, I'm going to try to just restructure this. That's at least how it looked to me on the outside. And I'm going to make sure our roster is where it needs to be in 2025. And I feel like that was probably the best thing they did all year was identifying we've got 3 extremely strong top babyface guys in Hangman, Ospreay, and Swerve. They are our 3 guys. They feel like our 3 biggest stars, and we're going to go with that. We've got our obvious group of heels. We've got our breakout guys. Like, we're going to position Kyle Fletcher here. We're going to position Konosuke Takeshita here. We have our up-and-coming group of, like, they're going to be our guys. Like, that is where I think, again, you can talk about, did it make a huge impact business-wise, like all this other stuff. Like, we can argue that every day about, of course, they're not on the same level of WWE, but it's not just a simple apples, to apple. I don't. It's not the same comparison. Like, we understand that, but right. I think you can still laud AEW for being like, all right, they hit a stretch where things were not working. They decided that we have to pivot away from this, and even if it takes a while for the stories to play out, and I think that's another difference. Where there felt like there were some stories in WWE that had no end game, where it felt like maybe even some might say to a fault sometimes, pretty much everything in AEW had an end game to where you knew this is where you were headed and we're just going to see this through. And you know what? Most of the time it worked this year. Yeah. Like, they saw it through and you came out saying, okay, like that worked out great. And I don't know what 2026 looks like in terms of the ratings or anything like that because it is such a changing landscape for all the reasons we've mentioned. But I don't know how you couldn't look at AEW this past year and feel like, and everybody loves to rank the years. I don't know where I'd rank it in terms of like overall, but like to me, it would have to be one of their strongest years they've had just because I think the focus was there. The intent of just what they were trying to accomplish. And I think to me, that's the overall lasting impression I'm going to have for AEW from 2025 is just that it was a company that felt like they could have made a few decisions that sent them further in the wrong direction. And instead, it seems like they just decided, like, enough of this. Like, we're going to get this thing back where it needs to be, and we're going to make sure we get our established stars where they need to be and all that. And, hey, we're good. And it turns out, I think, they were good. So
yeah, I mean, like, when you build a house, right, it's not necessarily fun until you get the house built, right? You get to put stuff in it. You get to pick your room. You get to decorate. Here's the TV's going to go here. That's more fun than like, all right, well, let's lay the concrete, I guess. Like, yeah. But you have to lay the concrete or else everything else, it doesn't matter, And I think they lost that a little bit in AEW. Also, I would say in AEW this year, you didn't have like that, for so many years you had like the big kind of Bryan Danielson was there, and then CM Punk was there, and MJF returned, and I think there was kind of some drama around the company in 2023 when you had the brawl out and all that jazz. Like, so this year you just had your product. Like, you just had your product. You had the guys that you had the women that you had, and that's all you had. And yeah, that means maybe some sizzle isn't there. And that means maybe like those huge jaw-dropping surprise moments aren't there. But you had some good ones, though. You had a stadium full of people cheering Adam Page at the biggest show of the year, All In, Texas. I mean, that's a high point of the year for them. And the whole year kind of directed itself at that moment. Speaking of Adam Page, so he won the Men's Wrestler of the Year award in our Takedown on SI 2025 awards column, and you can check that out now at the Takedown on SI. You and I both voted for John Cena, though, as Man of the Year. To me, that's an appropriate vote, and I would defend that vote, not necessarily because all his stuff was the best, but because, I mean, he literally was the focus of the entire year of the biggest promotion on earth. And so there was hits, there were a lot of misses. But when I think about 2025, what I think about is the John Cena retirement tour. That's why he got the vote that I gave.
And that's why I did it too. Like I put Cena at 1 just because we did mention like the business aspect of stuff. Like everyone is going to value things differently because we are not running either business of any of these companies. Like we are not in charge of that. But if I am looking at it from just an interest and overall, I mean, how many times I'd have to, I'm sure there's an answer out there, Zach, but in terms of revenue generated, I mean, this had to be one of the top ever for any single professional wrestler, wouldn't you say? Like in any year ever in the history of wrestling.
I really want to see like John Cena's merch checks. Like, he had a new shirt every show, every market that he was in. It was like, what are we doing here?
Like, that's the thing is like, Austin 316 shirts have been selling for decades, but it's like, I still would love to see like the comparison in real time to like the amount of revenue generated just in this one single year from John Cena and how it compares to any one year of anyone else. And I'm sure there's someone out there who maybe has already done this or, and of course you have to factor in inflation and all this stuff, which I just mathematically, Zach, do not have the competency to probably
That is not going to happen on the show. Yeah.
So, but yeah, like that's why is just because, I mean, again, it's like Man of the Year. What does that mean for you? And I think that's what it comes down to. And so, I mean, I think that was it. Like, I think both of us probably, I had Hangman at 2, I had Cena at 1, and I just think it was simply a matter of the business aspect. And like you said, if I'm going to think back on 2025, I'm absolutely going to think of, the run that Page had, which is, just an all-timer for him in terms of just an AEW, a single year run for someone. It's right up there, at the top. But even as bad and topsy-turvy as the Cena run was, there's no denying that he was, to me, the Man of the Year in terms of just everything that came with the John Cena effect. So
what do you guys think? Let us know. Comments. Man of the Year. Put them in there. Let's see what some votes are from our live chat here. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly. We are live here with the show on the Takedown on SI on YouTube every week, and we're a little early this week. Normally we're Thursday afternoons at this time, but because of the holiday, we bumped it up. We wanted to make sure we got a show in and had some cool stuff to chat about. So thank you for being here. If you're watching live, make sure you hit the like button on the video and make sure you are subscribed to the Takedown on SI. We got all sorts of interviews with top AEW talent, top WWE talent dropping. And then I'm excited for some CMLL interviews that are going to hit here in the next week or so. So hit subscribe so you don't miss those. Women's Wrestler of the Year. We were on the right side of the vote for this when it comes to, being with our peers and like picking the winner. Mercedes Moné got voted the Women's Wrestler of the Year. I voted for her, taking into account a couple different things. Like I still to this day love Mercedes Moné matches. I find that they're all really unique and they feel like a fight to me. And I like that about her matches. I also think, she's finally found like a good spot as a heel. And then like the belt collector thing. I mean, she's traveling literally around the world, picking up championships everywhere. And I know, you can roll your eyes at, she's going around collecting these belts, but I think that she's the right heel to kind of have that storyline. And so you do big business with her in that way. And then, you have really big matches with her on the biggest show of the year too. She was in, that women's main event, the Toni Storm versus Mercedes Moné match, biggest show of the year. She doesn't win, but it was a hell of a match. So while she didn't have like the same impact on the year that John Cena had on the men's side, like I don't know that I would look at 2025 and be like, yeah, that's the year of Mercedes Moné. But when you break it down, I don't know that anybody surpassed her either, which is why she got my vote.
I agree with that. It's like I don't know that there's anyone else of the people that I had a chance to watch the most that eclipsed that. And I feel like that's kind of what it came down to for me, was just that, yeah, like she was at the top, and you can say what you want about the belt collection and all that other stuff, but man, again, you want to talk about an interest thing. Like when she's going to all these places, when she's kind of has the interest that she has gotten in
Yeah.
doing all this, I mean, she felt like the most talked about woman of the year. And I think it's like, well, that's fitting for an award that's called Woman of the Year. So, yeah, so I went with that too. I think the one that I a lot of votes for Io Sky, and I think that's one too, where,
Yeah.
I mean, she won the Takedown SI's match of the year with Rhea and Io and Bianca. Like that was just a tremendous match, all-time great WrestleMania match. She'd be right there, I think. Obviously, Toni Storm had another great year. I'll be honest, like I think had Naomi finished out the year, I think she could have been, in terms of like, she may have honestly been the person with the best chance to beat Mercedes, which is ironic, right? Like, just think about these two and their paths to get here, and it just would have been ironic. And I think you still could vote Naomi just for the year she had. I mean, realistically, if you take from like Elimination Chamber to SummerSlam, what a run. I mean, it was just a tremendous run for her. And don't worry, we're going to touch on the heel turn thing in a second. I do want to bring that up because the amount of nonsense I've seen about this whole heel turn idea. We'll get to it. But I'll tell you one that I thought was a little underrated. I thought Becky Lynch would have gotten a lot more votes. I thought Becky, outside of main eventing WrestleMania, had a career year. Like, I thought she was, man or woman, about as good as it gets. Just from start to finish. Again, you think about that road for her from WrestleMania on. I mean, I don't know. Like, I just thought Becky was tremendous this year. And, but look at all the names I mentioned, right? Stephanie Vaquer, you mentioned her earlier. I mean, a career year basically stretched for her in terms of everything she accomplished. And you just keep going down the line. My goodness, man, the state of women's wrestling right now is just, look at the sort of birth and rebirth, I guess you could say, the tag team divisions in both two companies.
Yeah.
I mean, what a year. So
yeah, Becky Lynch is interesting. I like when I saw kind of all the votes tabulated, it's like I had to rethink about Becky Lynch because I didn't have her in my top five. So my top five that I had were Mercedes Moné, and then after that it was Rhea Ripley, Toni Storm, Io Sky, and Stephanie Vaquer. Like, now, I think you're nodding your head, and it's like, okay, I think all of those make sense. But I don't know that, like, hearing your case for Becky, I don't know that I can't put her, like, you can make the argument that she could go above any of those slots, I think. And for some reason, for me, it was like, I don't think I think it just, maybe in my head, it was like a slow start because you kind of had this weird heel thing. You worked Lyra, and like that kind of was okay, and it was fine, but
it got better. It started.
It got better. But I don't really know that it like the SummerSlam match, like the blow off at SummerSlam, like I think that was probably the worst match. But she found her footing as a heel inside of that feud. So it's hard to, it's really hard to say. But yeah, she's I think with recency bias, she would definitely be like, if you were gonna name who had the best final 4 months of the year, then I think she would definitely have to be on the list.
And the AJ thing helped her I mean, that was
Yeah, that
gave
helped
a
a
bump too.
lot. Yep.
Yeah.
And I still think they're on a path for something in 2026. Like I would not be surprised if that's a WrestleMania match.
Yep.
I mean, they've really planted the seeds for that. Okay. All right. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. The heel turn of the year was voted on as SI for Naomi. Naomi won the heel turn of the year. And like, that's really not the story. As it turns out, I guess the story is what is a heel turn and what isn't a heel turn. So I had John Cena number 1. You had John Cena number 2. You had Naomi number 1. So we are the perfect two guys to talk about this. And I think first, Blake, I want to hear from you. What is a heel turn? Because apparently there's all sorts of different opinions flying around about this.
All right. So
take a deep breath.
Here's the way I went with it. Initially, I had John Cena. The more I thought about it, I said, no, I don't think that's right. Because if we are going to pick the heel turn of the year, okay, that to me is very important. Because that means it has to be something that for the year basically kind of encapsulates, okay, that was the biggest heel turn of the year. That was the whatever superlative you want to use, right, to describe it. And so I went back and I started thinking, okay, I know there's going to be a lot of pushback. And by the way, I look at our votes. Like, we were pretty much split as a panel here on Cena and Naomi. A lot of people had Cena won. A lot of people had Naomi won. Like, it was very close. Maybe as close as any vote as we had, it looks like. But I just think of it this way. We had John Cena himself tell us in an interview that this heel turn was done for nothing more than a shocking moment. All right, so that's check one. We had the catalyst for the heel turn. The person this entire turn was built around was The Rock, right? He was the person who facilitated this turn. We saw him on that night, and we did not see him again. There was no link. There was no mention of any link between John Cena and the person who facilitated the heel turn. Strike two. Travis Scott, who was also part of this, somehow became the muscle for John Cena coming out of the heel turn. And when I combine all those things together, I asked myself this, Zach. Let's say, and I know it's completely different, all right? But see, I know Derek brings it up, like, and this is where we've had the discussion, right, of the difference between the heel turn and the heel run. I think the run has to be included in the turn, because otherwise, Zach, let me throw this hypothetical at you. If SmackDown was not pre-recorded on Friday night, and CM Punk came out and turned on Cody Rhodes, for absolutely no reason whatsoever, there was no build-up to it. There was nothing to tell us that this should be something that should happen. And then, let's say that happens. We're all going to be shocked. And it's probably going to be the heel turn of the year for 2020. I mean, it'd have to happen in 2026. But let's say that happens. Shocking turn. Never saw it coming. Never saw CM Punk just randomly out of nowhere attacking Cody Rhodes. All right? But afterwards, it goes nowhere. Like, nothing else. Like, it's just kind of the same and all this. So that's how I looked at it, was if Hogan turns in 96 and then is never associated with Hall and Nash again, then who the hell cares? Like, it's not really going to be a great heel turn. It's going to be a stupid heel turn that made no sense at the time. It made a little more sense at the time. Let me take that back. It did make some sense at the time. But when you consider that the entire story and the reasoning it made sense was thrown out right after the show, I don't know what to say. Like, It doesn't work for me, brother. Like, it just doesn't work.
I mean, I 100% agree. I mean, I went to battle on this. Like, I will die on this sword, Derek. I know you mentioned it here, as you say here. I see it as the difference between a heel turn and a heel run. Cena had the best heel turn, but his heel run was disappointing.
Anyone can have a heel turn. Anyone can turn heel.
Right. Anyone can turn heel. You could always have a. Now, this is coming from someone. I voted John Cena the best heel turn of the year, and I'm going to explain myself here in a minute. But I disagree, or I agree with you wholeheartedly on the fact that the heel run and the heel turn, that's got to be connected. You have to judge those as together. It's just like anything. Like, if R-Truth beat Cody for the title tomorrow, that would be a shocking moment, and it'd be a crazy moment, and it would make no sense and it would be bad. And like, so just because it's shocking doesn't mean that, that it's good. Now, with that stipulated to, I still maintain that John Cena heel turn still got the nod for me, even though it played out poorly. I think that, and I looked at it from the perspective of buzz, mainstream attention. Like, everybody was talking about this, throughout the, at that time early on. And to me, that resonated. Like, that mattered. Not the fact that it didn't work, and it didn't work. It did not work. It was not successful. But I still think, like, when I'm thinking about turns of the year, that still wins out just because of how significant it was. So I gave more weight to the moment of the turn than the run, because of its historical significance that it had. That's where my vote comes from. But I didn't separate the two things. I didn't separate turn and run. I know there's some people out there that made a big stink about that. You can't do that. You really can't.
It's just, I think, again, it's like, I could in real time, and I feel like I actually may have said this, like, in something before. I'm like, if they really wanted to do something just completely off the wall, you could say it's Cena, right? Because everybody at the time was like, it's Punk or McIntyre. It's got to be one of the two that are going to sell their soul, right? And knew it wasn't going to be Cody. And I'm just thinking, you could think about Cena here, but like, it would be such a bold move. I don't know if they would do that. And so again, like, the actual turn, the execution of it and all that, I get it. Like, but I cannot sort of look past the idea of, if we're calling it heel turn of the year, and I'm just looking at sort of the actual reasoning behind it. They have told us flat out, everyone in power minus Triple H has told us there was no reason for this turn. Like, right. And I think hearing that from the people involved makes me think I can't vote for it, because they're telling me up front there was no reason for this other than to just surprise everyone or shock everyone without any, I don't know. But look, I mean, I get Derek's point. It did make people care, and I completely understand that. Completely understand. I went a different direction.
Well, and that's why, like, I mean, to be fair, you vote. It's not like you didn't vote for the Cena turn at all. Like,
right. It's just
not number one.
And again, like, we were very split. Like, I'm looking at the votes. Like, it was a split panel here, so I think you had different people valuing different things. So
yeah, and that's allowed with a subjective awards thing like this. It's allowed. Be cooler out there, people. All right. Last but not least, before we get into our name that main event segment, match of the year. This one, I found this one really tough. I found this was like a tough category for me to just rank, because there were a lot of really good matches. I don't know that I had like that, like, that standout Bryan Danielson against Will Ospreay match, right? Like, I don't think that this year had that. in terms of like a universal, this is going to be everybody's number one. But man, it had some good ones. And I don't know that anybody even brought mine up. The one that I voted number one, my favorite match of this year, Toni Storm against Mariah May at Revolution. The kind of, what do they call that? The end of the stage act or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
I loved that match. I thought that match was just like, I thought it was just magic. It should have main evented that show. It was a full year in the making, which I like. And both women just went all out. It was a bloody kind of perfect end to what was their feud. And was it the most athletically pleasing match? Definitely not. Was it the most barbaric? No. But I felt that match had a ton of emotion in it. It had a ton of drama in it. You didn't really know who was going to win, right? All the recipe for something really, really strong. That got my vote. And then I picked the triple threat after that. And the only reason is because of the build. Like, I just think the build to the triple threat was kind of wonky. It was kind of like, really? We're doing a triple threat here? Oh, okay. Whereas on the other side, Mariah May and Toni Storm, I mean, that was chapter after chapter after chapter, and it just kind of culminated with this match.
Yeah, and I mean, I went with Rio. Like I always said it like that anytime I'm trying to combine all the names together. But I guess that's kind of what they're being called right now, right? In terms of
that's true. You're not wrong.
Team. So not wrong on that. So I went with the triple threat as mine, and it's gonna sound strange maybe, but I'm like, sometimes like I feel like the AEW matches, I don't want to say all run together, but like,
yeah,
there are some that I just like, I could not separate in my mind, Zach, because I'm like, it was a great match, great match, but like it was hard to completely separate it. Other than I did have Hangman and Ospreay from Double or Nothing as my number two. I think that became an issue for me, like just being able to separate some of them. And I know it's not, and I in all honesty, like it's not like I had the time to go back and just rewatch all of them either to put the votes in. I wish I could have, but I just did not have that luxury. So that's why, again, yeah, like mine were maybe tougher to put on there. But I mean, again, like, yeah, like the Hollywood ending match, like that's
Hollywood
one
ending,
that
that's what it is.
Probably should have had on my top five. I mean, I had the Rhea and Io match from Evolution.
Great match, man.
I thought that was one that I honestly considered even putting ahead of the WrestleMania one. And I know some people's knock on the match was the cash in. I kind of thought the opposite. I thought the cash in was the perfect way to end the match. Like, again, for everything that it kind of encapsulated. So I think that's one that I don't believe
that was
got
such
many.
a good match too, man.
It was excellent. Like, I mean, it really was. Like, I could have put that at the number one spot. I didn't, but I had Cena and AJ on there. That I'll be honest, like I think we all probably picked some favorites of matches where we just felt like they were not ones others were going to pick. I don't know that many people picked Cena and AJ, but I just thought it was not your traditional wrestling match, and I'm well aware of that. But again, if we're picking a match of the year, everyone has different criteria for what they enjoy. I just thought, knowing the magnitude and it being the final time and everything they did, yes, it was the ultimate like arcade game, like just
it was
everything. But that was the point.
Right.
Everybody's going to just pull out the kitchen sink because that's all they needed to do, right? It was one final time, and yeah, I just thought it was excellent. And the one I had on there too that I felt like kind of underrated, I did have a chance to go back and watch this one because I was trying to separate this from Bandito and Takeshita, honestly, at Super Card of Honor. Mystico and MJF at the CMLL anniversary show. You want to talk about an atmosphere making a match and those kind of things? Oh my goodness. It was just tremendous. And you have and that's where you and I talk about this a lot. The ultimate heel versus babyface dynamic. There was no doubt what that was. And so I wanted to find a way to get it on my list. I did. But yeah, I mean, again, we've never had a better selection of matches to choose from than we do. I feel like each year now. So
Well, it's pretty awesome that the first three matches we talk about are women's matches. I
yeah,
mean, like that.
yeah,
I think that's like telling for the year 2025
yeah,
that you can say that. Um, Also, obviously, a shout to just how many tremendous workers there are now that are women that are at the top of these shows and at the top of these companies. That's so cool. That's so cool to see. Yeah, I agree with you on the Rhea and Io match at Evolution. I love that match so much. It was so crisp. Like they didn't miss anything. The timing was perfect. Selling was perfect. And yeah, like at this point, like on the night of, I was like, oh man, I really wish I would have gotten a finish there. But
yeah,
now it kind of like lives in like the lore of, well, we didn't get one. You had this like epic match, and we don't know who was gonna come out in the end and win. So like, what does that mean? There's another match to be had between those two
yeah.
down the road. So I agree with you. I agree with you on that. What's your favorite match of the year? Drop in the comments, you guys. Would love to get a conversation going about that. Love to hear your thoughts on just what you agree, you disagree, or you have something else out there. You're allowed. You are allowed. So drop it in the comments. Let us know. But before we ride off into the sunset, Blake, it's time. I've been waiting all day. Name that main event. What do you have this week?
Well, Zach, how would you like to? Well, give me a time frame again, okay? You can give me 2000s, 90s, 80s,
All right, so I did
whatever you want to pick.
90s last week. I'll do 80s.
All right, you want to go back to the 80s?
We'll go back to the 80s. Yeah, this I feel like I'm not as on point with this as I will be 90s and 2000s, but let's do it.
All right, let me find a good one from. So I have my list here, and I'm gonna make sure I have the right one pulled up. Some of these are very easy, so I'm like, I kind of have to try to come up with one that's a little tougher. I always thought this was an interesting one. So, yeah, to me, the best match on this show was not the main event, but nonetheless, it was an interesting one.
Okay.
All right, Zach, the main event in the '80s, kind of a. I'm gonna start adding in some WCW, Jim
Okay.
Crockett Promotions ones because these are gonna be too easy. Hulk Hogan, Zach teams up with none other than Brother Brutus the Barber Beefcake, to take on the Macho Man Randy Savage, and who else but Zeus? Tag team extravaganza from the 80s.
So this has to be. It's got to be late 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
80, the 89 SummerSlam.
1989 SummerSlam is the event. Of course, what did they do? They did some kind of like packaging special. It was like
Yeah,
no holds barred, the match, the movie, or whatever it was. However they sold it. You
because
got
like
to see the
it was like the movie was wrapped up in this show, right? Like,
yes.
yeah.
So they did it like from. It was like in December they did something. So like this was separate. So they did the match here, and then they did another match. So like this basically is weird. This sort of built to the thing they did in December, which is kind of odd. But you had like I think it was what did they do? Did they do a steel cage match
I
between the
think they
two
did.
teams?
Yeah.
Maybe, but it was packaged in with the movie. So and they did it. It was in Nashville. Yeah. So they did it kind of. It was just such a weird thing. But yeah, there was part of their. They wound up putting it on like the super tape or something. But yes, it was. Zeus was an interesting period
That's
in the
wild.
WWF.
That's like the period of time where it's like you're still feeding Hulk Hogan. It's kind of like the
Everybody.
end of that, like kind of like 5 year stretch, but you're still very much in it. Like of all right, well, I guess it's Zeus's turn to get fed over there now. Like
Yeah.
it's an interesting
Best
time.
best match on the card was the Ultimate Warrior and Rick Rude. I think one of Warrior's best matches ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just Rude and Warrior. The chemistry there. still underrated to this day, in my opinion. Obviously, their Warriors matches left a lot to be desired at times, but I think Rick Rude was easily his best. I mean, outside of Hogan, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But him and Rude were they were great together. So
That match, it was very good. And it was 16 minutes. Warrior in a 16-minute match against Rick Rude.
I'm trying to think. Like,
Holy
I
cow.
mean, and again, I understand there's not a huge list here, but I would have to say that's easily a top 3 Warrior match. Maybe the best match he's had. I mean, you could argue the Hogan one at WrestleMania 6, but yeah, like their match the next year, which was when Warrior was the champion in 1990. They had the steel cage match at SummerSlam 90, but it wasn't as good as this one. So
no, it wasn't. I'm just looking at that 16-minute time mark, and I'm like, what? How is that possible?
there's your
How is
homework,
that
Zach,
possible?
for the holiday. Go back and watch the Ultimate Warrior and Rick Rude. You don't have to watch the main event because it really wasn't very good. So.
No, yeah, it was. God, it's so funny, like doing this because it's like some of these matches and these shows are such a sign of the times and like a sign of the industry, and like this one is like it's so 1989 WWF. Yeah. This main event, it's crazy.
Yep,
wild. All right, there you go. Name that main event. Let us know what you think, guys. Thank you guys all so much for being here today. Thanks for being here for the kickoff of the show. It's a highlight of the year, getting the show off the ground here at the Takedown on SI, and appreciate you all. Make sure that you're checking us out on takedownonsi.com. We got all sorts of news, features, interviews, editorials that drop every single day. So make sure that you got us bookmarked or flagged, or make sure you just head to us for your wrestling fix on a day-to-day basis. You could follow us on social media, XSI_wrestling. That's at SI_wrestling. We'll give you a nice fix of content there too. And then, of course, subscribe here to the Takedown on SI on YouTube. As I mentioned, we've got all sorts of interviews with top AW talent, top WWE talent that drop on a regular basis. We've got some cool CMLL interviews that are going to drop here in the next few days. A really good time to hit subscribe as we get into the new year. But Blake, I hope you and yours and the family have a wonderful holiday, my friend.
Yes, you too, Zach. And yeah, always a fun time here. It's been fun getting this show started, but here's to a great 2026.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. We will be back next week. We will have a show next week. We're going to preview the year to come in professional wrestling. We'll take a look ahead into the crystal ball of 2026. So don't miss that. Happy holidays to you all. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys real soon. For Blake, I'm Zach. Later.